Judicial Overreach, How Congress Lost Control of Medicaid Funding, Abortion Separation of Powers. Judicial overreach is a pressing issue that deserves our attention. In recent times, the current administration has made significant efforts to withhold federal funding from programs it opposes. These actions have rightfully come under judicial scrutiny, as the Constitution clearly designates the power of the purse to Congress. However, a recent case from Massachusetts presents a unique twist. In this instance, a federal judge has intervened to block a piece of legislation passed by Congress, not merely an executive order, but actual law, designed to redirect Medicaid funds away from abortion providers. The allocation of public funds is fundamentally a responsibility of Congress. Yet, U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani not only overturned Congress's decision regarding spending through a preliminary injunction, but she also declined to pause her ruling while an appeal is underway. This type of judicial activism from lower courts provides ammunition for the Trump administration's criticisms of the judiciary. The tax and spending bill in question was enacted on July 4th. One of its provisions states that starting October 1st, certain tax-exempt organizations that perform abortions will no longer be eligible for Medicaid reimbursements, which is the government's health insurance program. This provision is set to expire after 1 year. In response, Planned Parenthood, which stands to lose federal funding due to this law, quickly filed a lawsuit. Remarkably, Judge Talwani sided with Planned Parenthood, asserting that the provision constitutes an unconstitutional bill of attainder. Traditionally, a bill of attainder is a legislative act that declares a specific individual guilty of a crime without a trial. However, the judge pointed out that this concept can also encompass other forms of legislative punishment. It is important to note that many Republican lawmakers who supported this reconciliation bill likely oppose abortion and aim to defund Planned Parenthood, the leading abortion provider in the nation. Nevertheless, this does not render the Medicaid restrictions invalid. The budgetary process is inherently political, and decisions made by Congress regarding taxes and spending typically favor certain groups while disadvantaging others. Republican budgets tend to align with conservative priorities, while Democratic budgets lean towards liberal ones. The judge's attempt to label Congress's exercise of its spending authority as unconstitutional is concerning. She argued that if the Medicaid provision forces Planned Parenthood members to cease providing elective abortions, it would hinder them from engaging in a fundamental aspect of their operations. However, Congress is not obligated to financially support any organization's operations. If future budgetary measures can be scrutinized as bills of attainder, it could severely impair Congress's ability to function in its fiscal capacity. The ruling raises further questions about whether Medicaid funds should continue to be allocated to Planned Parenthood affiliates that do not provide abortions. The Trump administration has indicated that it has not yet determined how the law will apply to those organizations. Judge Talwani's ruling broadly mandates ongoing funding for all Planned Parenthood members, as if the reconciliation bill had never been enacted. Judge Talwani was nominated to the U.S. District Court in Massachusetts by President Barack Obama in 2013. Her judicial activism is reminiscent of a Texas judge who issued a legally questionable ruling in 2023 that blocked access to the abortion medication mifepristone, a decision that the Supreme Court overturned last year. Contrary to the claims of some of President Donald Trump's supporters, there is no judicial coup against him. It is likely that Talwani's decision will be overturned on appeal. However, this situation serves as a reminder that both the judiciary and the executive branch can overstep their bounds at the expense of Congress, thereby undermining the separation of powers. While many of the Trump administration's unilateral attempts to claw back spending are indeed questionable, in this case, the GOP has targeted funding it opposes through the constitutionally appropriate method, by passing a law through Congress, even with narrow majorities. Regardless of one's stance on the policy itself, this political decision warrants greater judicial respect than an executive order. By limiting funding for abortion providers, social conservatives have successfully advanced one of their long-standing legislative goals through legitimate means. To safeguard that funding in the future, liberals will need to effectively communicate their case to voters in the upcoming elections of 2026 and 2028. Relying on judicial decisions cannot replace the need for democratic legitimacy.